Hi, I'm Jean-Paul Gaster, and I play drums for the rock and roll band Clutch. You know, I think about where the one is in the groove. That's the most important beat. It's not that you have to play that beat every time, but you have to have an understanding of where that is. And if you do, everything else that happens after that will fall in line very naturally. I think about the backbeat where 2 and 4 is, and I think about the quarter note more than anything. Think about how to subdivide that groove so that it makes sense with the rest of the stuff that's going on. You might shuffle maybe the hi-hats a little bit, maybe those 16th notes or those 8th notes, depending on how you're thinking about it. They might squeeze together, or they might be more of a straight kind of a feeling. But at the end of the day, it's very important to think about what the lead voice of that musical piece is and how to best support that. I try not to jam stuff in just for the sake of jamming stuff in there. It's very important to support that lead line and then make the groove feel really good behind that. Well, I think more than anything, you have to listen to those great groove drummers. And you know, we always go back to Buddy Miles, we go back to Clyde Stubblefield, we think about Jebo Starks. These are guys that really wrote the book on how to play groove, so it's really important to pay attention to these guys. From those guys, you get guys like John Bonham, and all those great rock drummers that came out of the 70s. More than anything, listen to music and pay attention to what's going on and think about music all the time. Well, I think you have to understand that relationship of how bass and drums come together. It's important to think about the quarter note. The drums is a unique instrument in that it is a relatively new instrument. Although people have been playing percussion and drums since the beginning of time, the idea of playing a drum kit is a relatively new invention. This is an instrument that's maybe 100 years old, and it's really a jazz instrument. The focus of jazz for me is thinking about that quarter note and where that quarter note sits in the groove. The bass player is going to be right in there with you, and together you guys can make that quarter note come to life. Practice with a metronome, always practice with a metronome. Good time is something that you can learn. Everybody is not blessed with good time. I'm not one of those guys. I have to practice a lot to make any sense of the drums, and when I don't practice for a couple days, I feel very unhappy about my drumming. You know, for me, it's about putting the groove down. So, you know, to have more than 2 or 3 cymbals to me is excessive. I would get lost with all that stuff. I have 1 kick drum, 1 snare drum, 1 rack tom, and 1 floor tom. I like to have my cymbals be able to cover a lot of ground sonically, and by that I mean I want to be able to ride, I want to be able to crash, I want each cymbal to have a nice bell. For me, it's not so much about having a crash cymbal and a ride cymbal as it is having a lot of colors available to you, so that you can sort of get to a lot of different things without having to have a lot of different cymbals on the drum kit. Tuning is a very individual thing. At the end of the day, it's really about how you hit the drum. I prefer to have my drums medium sort of a tuning. If you get too high, the drum sort of chokes up on you and there's not a lot of response from the drum. I really depend on that head providing that bounce back up off of the drum. You know, we can work all day on trying to get sticks down and play as fast as we can, but really it's not about how quickly you can get the sticks down, it's how quickly you can get them to bounce off. So keep the drum about a medium tempo or a medium tension, and that way you can get your sticks to bounce off the drum a little bit. Fills is generally the last thing I think about when it comes to either making songs or playing live. These are things that are sort of an afterthought. Always the focus should be on what the vocal is happening or what the guitar is doing at the time. Drums is a rhythm instrument, so think about those guys and support them as best you can. When there's a hole available to you, you can fill that in with some creative stuff. I always think about 2 sort of subdivisions at once. I always think about the eighth note and the quarter note versus triplets, and being able to move in between those two. To me, that's really rhythmically exciting. So when there is something that you can sort of fill in, think about what came before that, and maybe you want to play something that contrasts that, or maybe you want to play something that complements that. But this way you can get to a lot of different things. It's important to play with as many people as you can, put yourself in as many different musical situations as you can, and to study as much as you can. You know, if this is what you want to do, play the drums, you've got to jump in 100%, and you have to dedicate yourself to this instrument, and that means playing with as many people as possible. Ultimately, when you get together with folks that you don't even know, you're going to play some stuff, and you're going to listen to those guys, and you're going to come away with something. Maybe you have more experience than those guys, and maybe you can sort of lead the way, or maybe these guys have more experience than you do, and you can learn something from each other. So it's really important to play with as many people as you can.